Hi, my name is Kerrace. I'm here at Astral Connections Internet Cafe and Gifts right now. And here with me I have someone very fascinating, I must say. And the more I hear, the more I want to know. So Karis Alexander here is from Big Fish Strategies Inc. And Karis was helping businesses develop for 18 years, was it, Karis?
Yes.
18 years. And in that process, as she was doing that, something else was happening to her on a personal level. And she was realizing, I guess, that her spiritual life and her business life needed some kind of balance. Is that correct? Would you say that's accurate?
Yes.
So now Karis is an energy healer, and there's many modalities she uses in her energy healing, and she's going to share some of those with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your energy healing and some of the modalities you use with your energy healing?
Sure. You know, in terms of the energy healing, everything and all the things that I do in my business and my work to support individuals in terms of their own personal growth and development has all stemmed from my own inner work, my own inner journey that I've partaken for the past 13 years. And so in terms of the energy healing, the real specifics in terms of the energy healing that I do is what I call core theme work. And core theme work is really about looking at the ways, the energetic imprints that we all carry within us. They're kind of hardwired within us. It's releasing these energetic imprints that allows us to live a fuller, deeper life.
Karis, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. You said we all have these energies hardwired in us. How do we know that? Because if somebody was to ask you, how do we know that, what would you say?
It's whenever you're coming up against a block in your life, that means that there's something that's stopping you from moving forward, and it's usually because of something that's happened to you as a child. It's been imprinted on you. It could be a trauma, it could be emotional, but what happens is that as little children, we grow up and we develop these personalities, and our personality is really made up of the places in which we've been neglected as children, unfortunately. And those places in which we've been neglected as children are actually places in which we've been hurt in our lives. And so what happens as adults is we relive those patterns, the places in which we've been traumatized, the places in which we've been hurt. And so that's how, from an energetic standpoint, the imprinting gets wired within us. And so we are all reacting to life instead of naturally responding to life because we've been imprinted.
Then Karis, I'm sure you have a life journey and you went through some imprinting that you dealt with in your life.
Exactly.
Maybe you could tell me a little bit about your life, maybe your upbringing, maybe what led you on your spiritual journey or your spiritual awakening, if I may call it that.
Sure, let's start with my spiritual awakening. So I had what I call a dark night of the soul 13 years ago.
Why do you call it that?
Because it was a dark night. It was a night in which, or day in which I was crawled up on the floor in a fetal type position, wishing that I had or wanting more in my life. And what I came to realize was that I was probably at the darkest hour in my entire life where I was in so much pain and suffering. That was the key for me. That was the catalyst for me. And so being in that dark night in so much pain and suffering and anguish, that propelled me to want to take the journey, to come to know myself on a deeper level, because there was a part of me. There was a part of me that knew that I didn't need to live with pain and suffering in my life. That there's a part of me that knew when I would have those moments when I felt really good, that seemed more natural to me than being in a state of pain and suffering. And so I use that. I use that as a focal point. I use those moments when I felt really good as an opportunity to want more of that. And so that was kind of the ultimate goal for me. I came to the decision that I wanted to learn to love myself more, to have a deeper experience of what it meant to love oneself. And so that is why I started on the journey. And I can honestly say today that I love myself unconditionally. I experience love in a way that I could never, ever possibly imagine. I have a very divine connection, a deep, intimate connection with that which we come from, the Creator, the All, the One, God.
Wonderful. I love how you put that, by the way. And how old would you say you were when you first, like, I mean, you know, that's what you just said here. It's a mouthful. It's an emotional mouthful. And like, how old were you when you realized this? Like,
I was 33.
Okay. And what was happening in your life at the time? Like, was there something really dramatic that happened? I know your dark night of the soul, you call it. That's one night, but was there events that led to that? Or?
Oh, sure. I think it was just, as I said, the trauma, the traumatic experiences I had as a child growing up were hardwired within me. And so the dark night of the soul was a combination of keep repeating these experiences in my life. And at 33, my friends were having children, and I wasn't. And what I came to realize was that, why am I not choosing the same path that my friends are choosing? Why is it that I'm choosing or having this really dark experience? And so that was the catalyst that led me on the path that I needed to do the inner deeper work in order to be happy. My friends were having children. That was going to propel them to be happier. And it wasn't the choice. I wasn't finding that was what was going to make me happy.
How did you know you had to go within, though? That's my...
The dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul makes you go within. And it was like I was leading a life where I went and had a career. I mean, I had a career. I was very successful, but I wasn't happy. I was doing everything that society was telling me I needed to be doing, and I wasn't happy.
So really, you were following your happiness then. You decided that forget everything, forget what society says, forget what anything around me says. All I'm going to do is follow that, follow my happiness, figure out where I want to be and where I want to go, and just follow that, because I feel the best when I'm there. Is that correct?
Yeah, and a dark night of the soul will get you there. When you're in a dark night, you're like, I don't want to be here. And so I knew for me, if I was going to continue on the path of the dark night, which was being a lot of pain and suffering, I was either going to self-medicate, I was going to drink alcohol or abuse myself in such a way that was not going to be to my betterment. And so I had a choice, and the choice was to learn more about myself and learn what it was that was not working for me. Why was I so unhappy? So I started going to therapy, and I started, and then as I would go to therapy, I would start crying, and I had someone that I could talk to, and I would cry, and I would have these kind of, euphoric type of experiences of releasing some pain within me. And I'd come home and I'd feel really good. And so I'd go back and have another session, and I'd have these crying fits, and then I'd feel good. And as I started realizing that when I was having my emotions after all these sessions, that I started feeling good, well, that just led to one thing after another. And I just kept on that journey, because it's been emotions is a really critical part of learning to know oneself. It is learning to understand that we are emotional creatures, and we have a right to our emotions, and we have a right to our feelings, and it is through our feelings that we come to know more of ourselves. And yet, when we're children, we're told not to have our feelings, to suppress our feelings. But it's our feelings that actually support and assist us to help us navigate through this world. And so I was not aware of that. And it is through my process that I've been able to become aware of it.
So it was through therapy that you became aware of it?
Well, it was through therapy. Then I was involved in a group where I was doing group process work for a number of years, and so I've been involved in other groups and workshops and therapy and all kinds of stuff. And then after a point, 6 years ago, kind of went on my own.
So you mentioned medicating yourself, you mentioned alcohol.
I could have.
No, I realize that. But for some reason you knew that that wasn't the way to go, that therapy was better for you than going the route of medicating yourself for alcohol. Why?
Because I knew whenever I felt really good, it wasn't because I was drinking. I was self-medicating myself. When I felt good, it was just, I felt good. And I felt that that was a natural, I've always known since I was a little girl that I wanted to feel good. I've always had that memory of feeling good. I'm sure many people can identify with that. You know, why is it that we live in this world where there's so much negativity? Why is it that we constantly gravitate to wanting to feel good all the time? Because it's our natural state of being.
I think we all do that, right?
Exactly. It's our natural state of being.
So would you agree in regards to our audience in suggesting to them that if they're in a situation where they're always struggling, where they're always finding themselves running into blockages, that they should stop and revisit where they are and what they're doing?
Oh, for sure. Bringing awareness to what it is that you're doing or how you may be harming yourself, or bringing awareness to where you're not in alignment. When you're not in alignment, you're in a lot of pain and suffering. Things aren't working for you. When you're in alignment, things are working for you. Everything's tickety-boo, right? And so bringing awareness to where the places in which aren't working for you is a signal. It's a sign that you need to bring yourself into alignment.
So a definition of alignment would be that to stay in a state of happiness. And
sure, state of happiness, joy, whatever word that you want to use. Yeah. But one of the key things is that this physical world system is really set up for us to grow. There are 7 billion souls on this planet at this particular time in history because there are 7 billion souls wanting to evolve themselves to the next level of consciousness. This physical world system that we live in is like a kindergarten. It's a playground. And so we come here so that we can learn our lessons. And unfortunately, we learn our lessons through pain and suffering. And so pain and suffering, unfortunately, is the catalyst. It gets us into alignment.
That's what gets us to realize that we're out of alignment,
exactly.
perhaps.
Exactly. It does. Totally. Yeah.